Welcome to Myers Park Baptist Church on this Good Friday, a day of deep reflection, soulful contemplation, and solemn observance, where we remember the passion and crucifixion of Jesus. The order of our service is taken from the ancient Christian liturgy called Tenebrae, which in Latin means shadows. This special service of shadows dates from the 8th century, and originally it lasted for the final 3 days of Holy Week. The 7 candles on the altar in the transept tonight signify the light of Christ. This evening we will celebrate communion, and then we will have a series of 7 readings following the sacred last hours of Jesus' life from the Gospel of Matthew. After each reading, we will extinguish candles and join our voices in a musical response. As the light from these candles is slowly extinguished, they serve to symbolize for us how the life of Jesus was snuffed out, and how the light of the world began to grow dim as Jesus departed from it. After the final candle is extinguished and our final words are read and our final song is sung, we will be left in silence and shadows, just as the world was left on the night Jesus was crucified. Good Friday is a day for which there are no words. All we can really do is enter into the story, walk in the shadows of the cross, and face the most inhumane aspects of our human existence. Witness our deep capacity for abandonment, denial, injustice, torture, violence, and murder, all on full display, and stand humbly before the incomprehensible mystery of God's love. On this most holy of all nights, it is our prayer that you will be able to fully participate in the story and experience a deeper understanding of God's love for you and for our broken world. So let us strive together to stay awake and keep watch and pray with Jesus as he endures this journey of suffering and death. May God help us all to remain vigilant as we follow Jesus on this way of suffering, and let it show us where we have failed to learn the lessons of his life and his death. Join me now in prayer. God of the beaten and betrayed, the arrested and abandoned, the tried and the trespassed, the condemned and the crucified of our world, prepare our souls this hour to walk with Jesus on the road to the cross. Open our eyes that we may see the needs of others in our world reflected in his. Open our ears that we may hear the cries of the lowly reflected in his cries. Open our hearts that we may feel the anguish of the world reflected in his. May our steadfast love be vigilant this evening. Do not let us be afraid to defend the poor, the oppressed, the powerless, because of the anger and the might of the powerful. Open our lives to the work of justice and peace that this Messiah lived. And let the death of Jesus be a witness to us of the solidarity of God with the suffering of our world, and compel us to live lives of solidarity as well. It is with Christ that we walk and pray. Amen.
Our scriptures remind us that not only does God speak to us through the mighty earthquakes and mighty rushing winds, but also in the still, small voices. So we invite you at this time to silence ourselves in a moment of reflection that we might hear from the divine. Now, won't you pray these words of a prayer of confession with me? Distant God, we repent of small misdeeds to satisfy our consciences, for we cannot deal with our denial of you. We seek to find life apart from you, for the cross is too threatening for us. We want comfort, not sacrifice. We embrace privilege, not pain. Yet the love of Christ brings us to our knees in awe and wonder. Oh God, we want to lay aside our preoccupation with self to become full participants in your realm. Rescue us from ourselves, O God. Deliver us from sin and bring us home. Amen.
The Last Supper. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12 disciples, and while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they became greatly distressed and began to say to him, one after another, "Surely not I, Lord." He answered, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. But woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born." Judas, who betrayed him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." He replied, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in the kingdom." When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
If there is any good to be found in the horror of Good Friday, maybe that good is found in the invitation to this table, a table that belongs to Christ, and so because it belongs to Christ, all are welcome. We often say that we are open to all and closed to none, and that welcome extends to this table. So no matter what you believe, no matter where you are from, you are welcome here. If you are here today and you find it difficult to make it to the front to receive communion, please don't hesitate to raise your hand and someone from our ministerial staff will serve you. But won't you come and find goodness in this feast that has been prepared for us this night? Won't you come?
On the night that he was arrested, betrayed, abandoned, Christ gathered with his followers, took the bread, gave thanks to God, and broke it, saying, "This is my body, given for you." And when the supper was over, he took a cup. He said, "This is the cup of life, my life, poured out for you and for all people for the forgiveness of sins. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." Won't you come? The cup of life, give the body of joy.
The arrest. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying, "The one I will kiss is the man. Arrest him." At once he came up to Jesus and said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus said to him, "Friend, do what you are here to do." Then they came and laid hands on Jesus and arrested him. Suddenly, one of those with Jesus put his hand on his sword, drew it, and struck the slave of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Then Jesus said to him, "Put your sword back into its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Do you think that I cannot appeal to God? And who will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled, which say it must happen this way?" At that hour, Jesus said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to arrest me as though I were a bandit? Day after day I sat in the temple teaching, and you did not arrest me. But all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophet may be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled.
The denial. Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard. A servant girl came to him and said, "You also were with Jesus the Galilean." But he denied it before all of them, saying, "I do not know what you're talking about." When he went out to the porch, another servant girl saw him, and she said to the bystanders, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." Again, he denied it with an oath, "I do not know the man." After a little while, the bystanders came and said to Peter, "Certainly, you are also one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to curse, and he swore an oath, "I do not know the man." At that moment, the cock crowed. Then Peter remembered what Jesus had said, "Before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and wept bitterly.
The trial. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders had gathered. But Peter was following him at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest. And going inside, he sat with the guards in order to see how this would end. Now the chief priests and the whole council were looking for false testimony against Jesus so that they might put him to death, but they found none, though many false witnesses came forward. At last, 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, 'I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days.'" The high priest stood up and said, "Have you no answer? What is it that they testify against you?" But Jesus was silent. Then the high priest said to him, "I put you under oath before the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "You have said so. But I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has blasphemed. Why do we still need witnesses? You have now heard his blasphemy. What is your verdict?" They answered, "He deserves death." Then they spat in his face and struck him, and some slapped him.
The sentencing. When morning came, all the chief priests and the elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate the governor. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You have said so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they knew. To them, "Whom do you want me to release for you Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ. For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word to him, "Have nothing to do with that righteous man, for he has suffered much because of him." Today, in a dream, now the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor said to them, "Which of the two do you want?" But they shouted all the more, "Let him be crucified." So when Pilate saw he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, "I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves." And all the people answered, "His blood be on us and our children." Then he released for them Barabbas, and having whipped and tortured Jesus, delivered him to be crucified.
the crucifixion. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, the King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they went out, they came upon a man from Cyrene named Simon. They compelled this man to carry his cross. And when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his clothes among themselves by casting lots. Then they sat down there and kept watch over him. Over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then two rebels who were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by derided him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from that cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, for he said, 'I am God's son.'" The rebels who were crucified with him also taunted him in this way.
The death. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani?" That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come and save him." Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last. At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, The rocks were split. Now when the centurion and those with him who were keeping watch over Jesus saw the earthquake and what took place, they were terrified and said, "Truly this man was God's Son."
The burial. Many women were also there, looking on from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him. Among them were Mary Magdalene, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was also a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it be given to him, and Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a clean linen shroud and laid it in his own tomb, which he had cut in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there, looking at the tomb.